So I think there's also a kind of lack of self-confidence in Brazil. So people like to blame themselves instead of looking forward. And I think it's sometimes also a bit about the attitude. But fortunately, I have met many Brazilian entrepreneurs who are really top in class.
I'll talk now to Thomas Bohn. He is a business consultant from Switzerland and he is visiting Brazil. I'll start asking him about his job. How is being a business consultant nowadays?
Thank you, Lucienne. I'm the head of the Greater Geneva Bern area, which is the investment promotion agency of Western Switzerland. And my job is to meet with companies, international companies around the world, which have investment plans in Europe. And my duty, my missions, is to meet those people and to understand the needs, to see how Switzerland can be an answer to the questions they may have.
You came to Brazil 10 times, among 8 years. What could you see here in our country?
I see that Brazil is changing, not that fast, so I visit other countries which are moving much faster, but I feel there's a change. And also when I meet business people here, they also tell me that it's going the right way. I feel that there's less bureaucracy. This was a very big problem in Brazil. It's still something which can be changed, can be improved, but I have the feeling that the business conditions are improving in Brazil, and I think that's good for the country.
Which kind of companies did you visit here in Brazil? What could you see of potential business here in the country?
So basically, when I visit a country, I try to meet, I would say, the best companies, the most innovative. It may be in different sectors. It may be, for example, in the IT sector, which is very booming, I would say, with a lot of things happening in the digitalization, for example. It will be in the life sciences sector. You may know that Switzerland is very strong in pharma and biotech, veterinary. So Brazil is very strong into that. You have a very big and strong farming sector, a very strong agricultural sector. And these are the kind of companies I'm meeting to understand if, Switzerland may be a place where they could benefit of good conditions to develop their activities in Europe.
What about our economy compared to other emerging countries?
You mentioned the BRICS. So I think BRICS do not exist, basically. I think it's just an acronym. I have been visiting all of the BRICS, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And to tell the truth, I don't see what they have in common. I have been recently to China, and China is really a booming economy. When you watch out of the window, you see cranes everywhere. I go to China at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. And every time you come to China, you have the feeling it's a new city. And this is something I did not notice that much in Brazil. So I think BRICS are emerging countries, which means there's a certain growth. As we know, Brazilian growth was not there in the last years. Expected growth next year will be, I think, 2%, which is not that much compared to, let's say, China with 6.5, I think now. So for me, BRICS is just a theory, it's just an acronym, but it's not a reality.
What could you see in China on the streets? Because it's so related to our economy. We export a lot to China.
China, what always impressed me that when you like to pay, for example, in China, whatever you like to pay, it may be a taxi, it may be fruits even you buy in a shop on the street, you don't use coins or notes anymore. Everything is paid by cell phone, by smartphone. And I've noticed now in Brazil that also people use more and more credit cards, but I did not notice that the fact that you could pay, for example, flashing a QR code, as you may do that in China. So in China, for me, it's really a crazy country, I would say, because everything is moving so fast. It's maybe also due to the population, which is very young, and internet is growing very fast, and everything is based on internet now. You have groups like Alibaba, like Tencent. It's multi-billion groups, and I don't see. I had the feeling the sky is the limit in China.
And in your opinion, what Brazil could do better to help businesses besides the commodities production, to help tech businesses, for example?
I have the feeling that you have nice companies in Brazil. You have nice groups, technical groups, technological companies. I see less companies in the hardware, for example. When speaking about China, you have big groups producing smartphones. I don't know a Brazilian group producing smartphones or developing smartphones. So I think there's also a kind of lack of self-confidence in Brazil. So people like to blame themselves instead of looking forward. And I think it's sometimes also a bit about attitude. But fortunately, I have met many Brazilian entrepreneurs who are really top in class, especially in the medical device sector, for example, medtech. I see people producing great instruments for the world market, and that's where we step in as a GGBa to see how Switzerland can help those groups who are really good in producing some medical device to produce even better ones.
So you match companies, the offer and the demand. What could you see here of potential businesses among Brazilian companies and European companies?
I have met this time some companies in the agricultural business. So we know that agriculture, food industry is very strong in Brazil. In Switzerland, we do not have natural resources. We just have water and we have brains. And we have chocolate. As you may know, chocolate is made with milk. And we have a lot of experience and know-how in processing food. And for example, we met companies which are interested in the techniques we have developed in Switzerland in our institutes about how to have a longer shelf life, how to avoid wasting food, because this is also a big problem. It's not just about producing better food, it's also how to preserve the food. And that's where our two countries and our two economies can match, in having on one side a country who's producing quality food, and on the other side a country which is providing techniques to even be better in keeping this food, in preserving this food.
And let's talk about also other countries, potential businesses in other countries in Europe. Starting talking about UK.
UK is interesting because now they are facing main challenges with the Brexit. So Brexit, what does it mean? It means a lot of uncertainty. It means, of course, opportunities. And of course, for us, there's something we can do about Brexit. We have met several companies from Asia, especially, also some from the US. And they are now in a situation where they do not know what will happen tomorrow. Brexit is its unclarity. Switzerland is stability. Everything goes, I would say, very slowly in Switzerland. The changes are not so dramatic, which means you can planify. And this is really something which is key for business people, is to be in a country where you can planify your business. I like to say that, Switzerland is not part of the EU, of the European Union. UK is now leaving the European Union. In the case of the UK, it's like a divorce. And we, as Switzerland, we are the kind of fiancé of Europe. And I prefer to be the fiancé than the spouse who's divorcing.
What about France? What is the potential of that country for businesses?
So France with 65 million inhabitants, Germany with more than 80 million people are really big markets. For Brazil, it's very important. You have, for example, the car industry, automotive. You have the plane industry with the Airbus project, for example. And I think there's a lot of things to do between those economies. And Switzerland is between. And that's very interesting, for example, for companies who want to address the European market, and the biggest markets being Germany, France, the UK. It's that from Switzerland you can make business with everyone. Because Switzerland, we have 3 national languages, which are French, German, Italian. And we also have this kind, I would say, of neutrality. People love to make business with Swiss people because we have this reputation of being serious, of being on time, and this helps a lot. So it's really a kind of big partnership we have between France, Germany, and Switzerland in between, where we make business together, and now I think a good opportunity for Brazilian companies wishing to develop activities in Europe.
And let's talk specifically about Germany. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to go there, and I could meet a great agribusiness industry there. What's your opinion?
The agribusiness in Germany, yes, Germany is a big country, but Brazil is much bigger. And what I see in Brazil is opportunities. Also, Germany is very much into automation, with very large groups, industrial groups, as we have also in Switzerland. And I see a lot of opportunities. When we speak about agriculture, for example, we have in Switzerland something which is very unique, which is the drone industry. And drone, what is drone basically? Drone are, it's optics, it's micromechanics, microelectronics, and you put everything together, you get a drone, and with drone what you will do is to improve agriculture. And this is again an industry where there's a big match between our two economies, between Brazil and between Switzerland, because Swiss competences, Swiss techniques can help Brazil improve one of the main sectors of its economy.
And Thomas, every economist that we talk, that we interview, they say the world has excess of liquidity. So talking about it, what's your advice for Brazilian businessmen about business in this scenario of the world economy?
I think it's the right moment now to invest. But then you have to invest in the right companies, in the right industries. What we see now in Switzerland, because we are putting a lot of efforts into the most, I would say, innovative industries. There are a lot of initiatives in Switzerland for digitalization, for example, about artificial intelligence. And if you know people here in Brazil who have enough money to invest in promising industries, just let us know, and we will be happy to introduce them to the right startups, because we really have a flourishing ecosystem of startups in Switzerland in all types of industry. It can be from the life sciences sector to the IT sector, with the commodity trading sector, because fintech, wealth tech are really now key industries, becoming really key pillars of the Swiss economy.
Thomas, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for all this information.
Thank you, Lucienne. Thank you.
Luciane Miranda to Dukascopy TV.